Welcome to Gracefully Grading. I'm your host, family law attorney Henry Gornbein. I'm also a partner in the full-service Birmingham law firm of Lippitt O'Keefe Gornbein. Every week on this show, we cover issues that impact upon us as we gracefully gray. Today, I'm pleased to welcome as my guest a very prominent cardiologist, Dr. Joel Kahn, as we discuss really the heart of our whole body and how we age and what can we do about it. So without further ado, let me welcome Dr. Joel Kahn to Gracefully Graying.
Thank you. We'll go by Joel, and since Henry, I know you, I'll call you Henry. Thank you.
Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about who you are and your background?
Sure. Real succinctly, I'm a Detroit-born local product, University of Michigan undergrad, med school residency, but I knew from the start I wanted to be a heart specialist. Ended up moving to Dallas and Kansas City, but Michigan draws you back even long ago, and I've been practicing cardiology in the local area for close to 30 years now. Was a traditional practice, crazy practice, 3 in the morning, heart attacks, emergency rooms, but over the years I got very interested in prevention, very interested in nutrition, and ultimately very interested in aging and longevity, which is why this is such a perfect fit. So I now predominantly help people find out if they're aging prematurely, because it's not so obvious. It's not always judged by the color of your hair or the amount of hair you have. And if they are aging prematurely, trying to identify why, root cause, nutrition, stress, sleep, and such, genetics, and design a plan. So this is really like the center of the hottest medicine right now, and really the heart takes the biggest hit. So the fact that I'm interested in aging and a cardiologist may seem odd. It's actually ideally suited for the kind of progressive practice I have now.
Now, you said progressive practice. Don't you do something fairly unique where you have a practice where you attract patients who are going to want to just utilize you, and you do things where it's directly and not even through insurance?
Yes, I actually, so typical patient might walk in my office and literally say, I heard of you, I read about you, my brother had a heart attack, I'm fine, just take me apart, put me back together. I find that fun. They're not suffering, they're not having emergency room kind of issues. They might be playing 3 hours of tennis a day. They want to know if they're aging. They want to know what their biochemistry shows, their genetic shows, which is largely lab work. They want to know if their arteries are aging. We talk about nutrition, sleep, stress, meditation, vitamins, whatever it takes. Some people have had the heart attack, the stent, the bypass, don't want to go through it a second time, want to dive deep and really work to prevent it. And a few people come for second opinions and they're really very sick. I mean, typical call, I'm having bypass 2 days from now. Can you look over everything and make sure I really need bypass or a stent and all the rest? So very often they don't, to be very honest. Very often there are legitimate medical options rather than having your chest cut open, and sometimes there aren't. So I try and be, I've spent years in traditional medicine. I am a professor at Wayne, professor at Oakland University. I mean, I have my feet well grounded in standard cutting edge medicine, but there's a wonderful world of nutrition and anti-aging medicine that is science-based, but it's just not applied. So I applied. I have so much fun, but it takes a little more time, so it's not whipping out your Blue Cross card, it's whipping out your Visa card, and people are very gratified. Many times I hear, Doc, this is the first time I ever sat with a doctor ever for an hour, and you actually listen. So to me, that's wonderful medicine that maybe not everybody can reproduce in their office, but I did it the other way for enough years. I'm enjoying the deep dive into, people that want it.
Joel, tell us about it. Let's say I'm a prospective patient. I've come into your office. Take our viewers step by step through what happens when you meet with someone for the first time.
Yeah, so we're going to sit and talk for a while, and I will very hard try not to interrupt and guide it. I'm not under that much of a rush like my former practice where many people booked an hour. And then I'll ask directed questions. The reality is when we're talking here about graying and aging gracefully, is that simple things work powerfully. And so I need to determine smoker or not. Are they walking or going to the gym or biking? Because fitness, not marathon, not competition weightlifting. It could be Tai Chi. It could be gentle yoga. It could be literally walking with a dog or without a dog or with a group of friends would be a wonderful thing. Or there are many people in their 60s, 70s, 80s. My mother, God bless her, at age 85 is Zumba and Pilates, pretty darn aggressive stuff. So we're going to concentrate on not smoking fitness. I want to know what they're eating, literally. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, soda pop, sweeteners, sweet tooth, 11 at night, 3 in the morning. I need to know what they're eating, where they're eating, restaurants. Because excellent nutrition slows aging. Excellent nutrition versus diseases, I need to know. I want to know if they're drinking. Drinking isn't off the table. Drinking is still within the medical prescription as something that can be associated with longevity, but I want to know how much and what. I say that because several studies, including a brand new one from Harvard School of Public Health, that shows you can actually live longer by some of these simple tips. Actually includes a glass of wine a night, 5 nights a week, as part of their statistical analysis. So I'm not telling anybody listening, break open your bottle of scotch and down it. It takes some nights and even maybe some weeks you don't drink, but if you enjoy a glass of wine, it's okay. And the last one is actually the hardest, working with them to stay thin, because not emaciated, but thin is generally a pretty good marker, not always, but a good marker for avoiding diabetes, blood pressure. Now, I go much deeper. We're going to have extensive labs. We're going to know about fancy words. Of course, all the cholesterol, the blood sugar, inflammation, your genetics. Genetics matter.
Tell us about
Yeah,
that.
so it's very interesting. My favorite one, and I know we can't go through everything, there's a kind of cholesterol that's inherited genetically called LP little a, or lipoprotein little a. Costs $22 to have that blood test run. It's never on a routine panel.
Why?
20% of Americans are high, 65 million Americans. And if you're really high, your arteries are taking a repeated hit from the day you're born, because it's genetic, all through your life. It hasn't made its way into the standard panel, although everything I just said has been known for a good 40 years. I'm amazed how many people come to me and say, I've had bypass stents, or I know I have heart disease. Nobody can figure it out. $22 later, I tell them, you're one of 65 million Americans, and then we have to struggle with the fact there's not as much science what to do about it. That's an example, but there's a talk about aging. There's a gene test. Maybe it's $50, called ApoE.
What does that do?
It's a gene. It's simple. You get your blood drawn, you get a report back. It says you got the good ones from your parents, or it says you got the higher risk one from your parents. It's called ApoE4. It's developing Alzheimer's 20 years earlier than the average population if you're carrying that gene. Now, you can say, Dr. Kahn, what are we going to do about it? Well, more and more we're developing medically based strategies. Doctors like a group in Loma Linda called the Schurzeyes, neurologists, that have lifestyle plans to prevent Alzheimer's. We don't know for sure you can reverse it, but we're pretty certain you can prevent it. So if you knew you were carrying a gene, would you rather eat well, lose the weight, start walking, put turmeric on your food, manage your blood sugar?
Of course.
I would, sure.
Of course.
So
That's
give
an easy
people
one.
a heads up. So that's some of what we do, and then periodically we retest. And just one last thing. There's 400 years ago, English Dr. Sidingham said you are as old as your arteries. Interesting concept 400 years ago. Well, we measure how old your arteries are in my clinic. You can do it by ultrasound on the neck painlessly. You can do it by a little CAT scan of the heart. I like the ultrasound, it's quick. And I actually help people demonstrate over a year or two they're getting younger. And I don't make this up. It's fascinating science that's been around for about 40 years. Dr. Dean Ornish, some people will recognize, a pioneer in cardiology. But I'm doing it right here in local Detroit and actually documenting. Even if your genes aren't perfect, if you're willing to make some changes in your lifestyle, maybe a few prescription and non-prescription additions to what you're doing, I'm really trying to rock the boat and help you get to a younger place in life, keep your faculties. So far it's working pretty well for me. I'm a few years younger than you, but there's 20 things a day I do, and they're pretty typical. I meditate, I eat well, I exercise, I sleep, I love my wife, I take some vitamins, I check my blood pressure, I know my labs. It's longer list than that, but it's a pretty darn good insurance policy.
What about stress tests and some of the other tests that cardiologists typically do, and the fact that whenever I have an annual physical, I do an EKG? How important are those as far as markers?
Yeah, they're not very accurate if the listener tonight is saying, today is saying, I've never had heart disease, I don't have the bypass, I don't have the stent, I don't have the blockage. An electrocardiogram, actually, next year you may not get one because a governmental panel about a month ago said we're no longer going to pay for an annual electrocardiogram. We don't see any evidence that even though it's a $40 or $50 test, we don't see the return on the dollars. So you may not get one next year, which may not be such a liability, but I do them in my office for free because I do find them useful. Routine stress testing for the person that says I feel good is actually not recommended by the American Heart Association. There's too many false readings. So what do? Nothing? No. They're actually, thank you for asking, for the person listening that's 45 to 70 years old, maybe 75, you can go to a local hospital for $100 and there's a test called a calcium scan of the heart. No injection, no iodine, no needles, no nothing. It takes 10 seconds. You get an internal look, and it actually provides that arterial age, that concept I talked about, where you get a report that says you have the arteries of somebody 20 years younger than you. Rock on, eat healthy, you're going to make it a long time. Or you got arteries of somebody 10, 15 years older than you, and we got to work at it. So that's actually the best screening test, and what I just said is endorsed by the American College of Cardiology. I'm not radical. It's about $100 at all the local hospitals.
Aren't there false positives that I read about that?
If you have no calcium, you're about 99% certain for 5 to 10 years, you're not going to be in an emergency room, you're not going to have a heart attack. There's no better test. 99% is pretty good. If you've got calcium, you've got aging, but it's all relative. I see people all the time, and a woman age 45 with calcified heart arteries, it's very rare. I mean, maybe a diabetic, a smoker, a genetic problem. That's really a problem. You're 78 years old and you decided to have the test and your arteries are somewhat calcified. I had a prominent financial guy in town urgently text me yesterday about his heart CT, but I looked it up. I said, that number for your age is actually average. Now, I don't think average is good enough. I'd rather you be better than average, but let's not have a sleepless night for an average result. So it's all relative to where you're at. It's a great test. Heart artery calcium CT scan. Available. I don't have the machine, so this is not promotional, this is educational.
Now, Americans, by and large, are overweight.
Yep.
And we're probably one of the worst advanced societies when it comes to that. And isn't that a major thing, not only for diabetes, but for heart disease as we age?
It is, and it's not really a judgment, skinny's good, curvy's bad. It's, unfortunately, obesity runs with high blood sugar, obesity runs with high cholesterol, high blood pressure, aging of arteries. There's something called the dinosaur syndrome, big body, small brain. It's described by neurologists. Who wants to get older and can't remember your name and where your keys are because you've been carrying 40 extra pounds? So, it's a complex situation. It's clearly the food. It's the food supply. It's sitting in cars, on couches, in front of computers. It's pollution. It's stress. We don't sleep well at night for many of us, and our phones there and our laptops there. But you can break through and get it under control. The hottest solution going on right now is a whole different topic about utilizing medically proven fasting. Having a little less to eat.
Hold that
4 or 5 days in a row.
Because I've passed a break point, and we're going to be right back with my guest, preeminent cardiologist, Dr. Joel Kahn, right after this break.
Tarno knows doors. We've got garage doors, entry doors, storm doors, custom doors. Tarno knows doors.
Plus, the latest LiftMaster garage door openers and the toughest retractable screens on the market, all by the push of a button. Tarno Doors is celebrating its 50th year anniversary and is the recipient of the 2016 Subcontractor of the Year from the Home Builders Association.
Tarno knows doors. Tarno knows doors.
If you need a fingerprinting service, A1 Fingerprints is the place to go. A1 Fingerprints specializes in fingerprinting for teachers, students, law enforcement, and more. A1 makes the process so easy and simple you can be in and out in 10 minutes. A1 does walk-ins so appointments aren't necessary. A1 Fingerprints, located in Southfield on Southfield Road. Go to a1fingerprints.com for more information. That's A1fingerprints.com. It's that easy.
Advertising your business these days can be challenging. Traditional radio and TV ads are expensive and, frankly, a bit of a crapshoot. Not to mention, the audience for over-the-air material is shrinking as more and more of us demand to see and hear what we want, when we want. Advertising on new radio media is a solution. With our live streaming programs that are also available on demand, your message is always ready when your customers are ready to watch and listen, all for a fraction of what you'd likely have been paying for other ads. NewRadioMedia.com. Call Buzz Van Houten at 248-939-9999 for more information.
Maple Lane Golf Club is a 54-hole golfing treasure located in the heart of Sterling Heights. Maple Lane Golf Club offers immaculate greens, a top-flight pro shop, and inexpensive green fees. For convenience, book your tee time online at maplelanegolf.com. Come out and enjoy a great golf experience. Try our 9 and Dine special, 9 holes of golf, and enjoy food and refreshments in the Clubhouse Bistro. That's Maple Lane Golf Club in Sterling Heights. Check us out at maplelanegolf.com.
We are back with my guest, cardiologist Dr. Joel Kahn. Joel, before the break, we were really talking about, a lot of your practice, your philosophy, your theories, and you're doing some wonderful things, and you're really into holistic medicine, for lack of a better word. My question now is, first of all, what are the symptoms that someone should be aware of if they think they're having a heart attack?
Yeah.
I mean, I have a friend who's a retired doctor who says in the old days he used to say, if you had pains or were exhausted going up the stairs, then it was a heart problem. If you had pains going down the stairs, then it was your knees and joints. So.
There's a lot of wisdom in that, actually. So my philosophy is identify the problem way before you're going to have an emergency room visit or symptoms, but it still happens, of course, that there's symptoms. So always be concerned. We call it angina or angina. It's potato, whatever you want to say. But we say heart pain, but most patients say it's not painful. Doc, I had uncomfortable, a pressure, a squeezing, a tightness, just a lump in my chest, a balloon in my chest when I was doing the lawn, when I was going up the stairs, when I was dragging that heavy suitcase, and I took a break and it went away in a minute. So it's nothing. It went away in a minute. Oh boy, that's classic.
Not nothing.
Could be cold weather. That's clearly can bring it on. Could be during sex. Classically, old man, young woman shouldn't have been there. That's when it starts, because you can speed it up by mental stress plus physical exertion. So angina, it could be just short of breath. If you've been doing something, whether it's in the gym, in your yard, at home, and all of a sudden it makes you winded, do not ignore it. And then there's less common racing heartbeats. But all of those exercise, cold weather related uncomfortable feelings and shortness of breath only develop when your arteries are getting very badly blocked, 70, 80, 90, 95% blocked. So that's the time to quickly get in touch with your doctor, or if you're really unwell, go to an emergency room with 911.
And Joel, traditional medicine, my father went through 2 bypasses. This was one in like 1971 in the 80s, and he outlived both of his surgeons. So you never know. But you have heart problems. I mean, open heart surgery was always the big thing, then stents, and but you look into different alternative ways. So let's talk about some of the things that you look at when you're trying to treat someone who literally has heart problems, perhaps had a heart attack, and where do you go from there?
Yeah, so it's really like I tell people, it's Monty Hall. We got 3 doors, bypass over there, stents in the middle, and let's talk about prevention and nutrition and all. This information is available since as early as at least 1990. Again, Dr. Dean Ornish. It was proven without a doubt you can take clogged heart arteries and make them less clogged by changing your diet, by getting your exercise, by throwing away your cigarettes, by actually getting involved in social groups so you're not a lonely, isolated person. Not everybody responds to that, and some will continue to need door 3 and door 2, but hardly anybody hears a week before they're going to bypass or a stent that there are other options. And that's often what I do in the office is consider with the patient if the only recourse is surgery. So we're going to do the history, the physical. We're going to get those extensive labs. And we're going to talk about the scientific data. The simplest thing anybody listening can do on Netflix or at the library is a 75-minute documentary called Forks Over Knives. Forks Over Knives. Came out in 2011. Watch it with your family. It shows two professors, one at Cornell, one at the Cleveland Clinic, and the science of being able to reverse a number of diseases with nutrition, from adult diabetes to obesity to actual serious heart disease. And it's the real McCoy. And there are people in this city who 2 months after watching a documentary, they were on no more diabetic medicine, no more blood pressure medicine, of course with medical supervision. And when I'm talking about diabetes, I'm talking about adult diabetes, not children that will be on insulin their whole life.
Right.
The kind that can respond to changes in diet and weight loss. It's rare for a patient to hear from their doctor, you know, here's a prescription for your blood pressure, but you know, this is a reversible problem if you'll do A, B, C, eat different, sleep different, move different. Your diabetes, here's your prescription and here's your dietitian referral. But you should read this book about why type 2 diabetes can be reversed. Give it a shot. Why don't you get rid of this life-shortening disease before your eyes and your kidneys and your sexual function get impaired? So I'm always an advocate to make sure the patient is informed, and then it's up to them. But I am shocked. People come back 2 months later. Doc, you told me. I actually read that stuff. I watched that movie. I eat differently. That happened all morning today in the office. And I can see in their lab work, I can see on the scale, I can see in their blood pressure that they've had meaningful improvements in their health. And often, as I say, it's the first time they've heard it. It doesn't take much. I just open the door to the education piece. And again, the simplest thing I do too, please watch Forks Over Knives. I actually have it on a prescription pad. It does all the work for me. It's a very compelling story.
So diet is critical. What
Right.
about exercise?
Exercise is essential, but it doesn't have to be much. I mean, the American Heart Association says 150 minutes a week. That's 22 minutes a day. 22 minutes a day. 1,440 minutes a day. Take 25 of them to walk vigorously, to maybe stretch, maybe do some chair yoga, depending on your age. If you're in better shape, you obviously can step it up and go more than 25 minutes a day. But there's hardly an excuse not to be able to get that duration of exercise in. You know, and if you really don't know what you're doing, YouTube's online, maybe a trainer for a little bit. Heart patients usually start out in a cardiac rehabilitation program and get supervised teaching. So you want to eat excellent, and that's a lot of plants and not too many birthday party cakes and fried chickens. You want to get the exercise. Sleep has come on, particularly as people age.
How much sleep?
Yeah. So, I mean, I say the best anti-aging pill is your pillow. And of course, that's not 14 hours a day, but that's not 4 or 5 hours a day. That's not snoring all night long. You may have to pursue and see if you have a condition very common called sleep apnea. 7 to 8 hours is kind of the sweet spot. There are people that do great and their health is optimal 6.5, but 7 to 8. And it may take a little melatonin at night. It may take a little magnesium, natural Kahn powder you can buy at a health food store. Don't do it with wine and scotch. That's not a good way to fall asleep and actually get good, healthy sleep. You may have to move the dog out of the bedroom and make it cooler with a little fan and make it dark. You may have to get your husband or your wife to get treated for their snoring, so the snoring,
I know that's a big issue.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
But try. You know, nobody made this better a highlight than Ariana Huffington of the Huffington Post, who just burned herself down into the ground about 8-9 years ago from lack of sleep. And now that's pretty much the only thing she talks about, that the path to executive health and executive wellness and general health is 7-8 hours sleep a night, and do not forsake it. And many people have picked up that, aging, anti-aging, and wellness message.
Joel, meditation.
Yeah. Funny you ask, because I formally completed transcendental meditation training about 5-6 weeks ago. I've known about it, like many of us have known about it for decades. It hasn't gone away, only more and more science. If you've had a heart attack and you learn how to do transcendental meditation compared to the person that doesn't, you drop your risk of another heart attack by 50%. Major study, really published, good data. So I went to the training, and that is 20 minutes twice a day, and it's hard to find that. I mean, you got to find 25 minutes for exercise and now 40 minutes for transcendental meditation. There are other forms of meditation. There are apps on the phone. There's one called Headspace. Many yoga studios would teach you. But we're so wound up. Our phone, our laptop, our computer, our Wi-Fi, and Twitter and Instagram. Just detaching 20 minutes once to twice a day is profoundly impactful on better sleep, better blood pressure, better weight, PTSD, stress, depression, and I couldn't recommend it higher on really a scientific medical basis. It's not new age. It's a tool in the toolbox to help you move better. One of the biggest underlying causes of all health problems is stress. And yes, there's Xanax and there's Valium, but there's meditation as a proven avenue with no risk and no side effect to deal with stress.
Don't you think we have more stress in our daily living now than perhaps 30, 40 years ago? Especially since we're bombarded. It's like people can't put away their screens, and we're wired in too much.
Yeah, you have to stay up what's going on in the world, but always having CNN on and always having the news blasting, it's tough because it seems like there's a crisis every second. And I don't think it's that much different than 50 years ago. We just didn't hear about it till Walter Cronkite came on at 6:30, and we took a half an hour a day,
exactly.
not 24 hours a day.
Now
You
it's
remember
24.
that, I remember that. Yeah, there is more stress. And I think the digital era has added some convenience to life, but it's up the stress. So we needed a tool. Exercise is stress management. Friendship is stress management. Meditation is stress management. There are some safe herbs.
What
that
about
you can
saunas?
take. Sauna is an interesting sauna. I actually do my meditation in my sauna that I have in my home. As a joke, I call it saunitation. I think it cleans out my stress and it cleans out my health. Sauna is going to surprise the audience, but out of Finland, data of what sauna does for your longevity, healthy longevity, remarkable data in the last 2 years published in the best medical journals. And another kind that I'm a fan of, infrared sauna, a little harder to find, what that can do to improve your heart arteries. So anybody that walks past the sauna at the health club or the sauna at the wellness center, stop and appreciate a sauna is a ticket to health for most people.
Joel, we're down to 1 minute. I'll ask you one last question, then we're going to have to wrap.
Okay.
Sex.
Sex is the best health and anti-aging therapy. If you live in a little town in Wales and you fill out an answer how many times a month you have sex, the answer of more than 8 times a month drops your risk of having a heart attack by 50%. More than 12 times a month drops it by 60%. Some people are saying, whoa, don't tell my spouse that. But it's true. If it's relations, it's physical, it's emotional. Sex is on the list for health. I've written a book on the topic for heart disease, so I do speak from authoritative experience.
Joel Kahn, we're out of time. I want to
great.
thank you so much for being my guest on Gracefully Graying, and I'd love to have you back. And I want to thank our viewers for watching Gracefully Graying. This has been a fascinating topic, and I appreciate your input and comments. Thank you.
Hey, you guys, it's Raphael of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Guess what? The only thing we can get down here in the sewer is Geektainment Weekly on New Radio Media. Turtle Power!
Working for New Year's Times, kinda how I've been living. Feeling all a little deflated, kinda how I've been rolling. Going till my steel belt showing, never slowing to rest much. Driving around the streets until they come to detest us.
At Murray's Part City, we're known for offering customer service you won't get in any chain store or online. But don't take it from me, just listen to what our customers have to say.
The employees at Murray's are knowledgeable, courteous.
They make you feel like you're at home.
Pick up a can of Seafoam Fuel System treatment for only $6.99 or a 5-quart container of Mobil 1 motor oil for just $28.95. Murray's Part City and Pontiac Trail at Maple Road in Walled Lake.
We've got the parts you need when you need them.
Hi, I'm Art, and we're the crew at Tuffy Walled Lake. We've been in Walled Lake for 20 years, and through our knowledgeable staff and customer satisfaction, we've become quite the cornerstone in our community and to our discerning customers statewide. We know how important your vehicle is to you, and we take pride in our impeccable, affordable service and we're trying to get you back on the road as quickly and safely as we possibly can. Please stop in and see why everybody comes from all over to get their cars serviced at 784 North Pontiac Trail in Walled Lake.